The Vivo X Fold 3 Pro is the company's first foldable smartphone to launch in the global market and arguably the best foldable ever released. In the box, you'll find the device itself as well as a premium hardshell leather finished case, a 6-amp charging cable, and a 120-watt charging block, even though the phone limits charging at 100 watts. Vivo's latest foldable has already landed in India with a price of 159,999 Indian rupees, which works out to roughly $1,900 US. It's a bit cheaper in Indonesia at around $1,650 and only comes in one variant with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. I don't usually jump straight into cameras when testing out a foldable device, but the X Fold 3 Pro delivers the best camera performance I have ever seen come from a foldable smartphone. The camera module is reminiscent of Vivo's flagship X series devices and follows suit with the Zeiss partnership. There's Zeiss T coating on the lens, and the device also boasts Vivo's in-house made 6nm run V3 imaging chipset. One of the biggest upgrades this year is the new telephoto camera, which is a large half-inch sized 64-megapixel OmniVision OV64B periscope sensor with a minimum focusing distance of just 15 centimeters and a focal length of 70 millimeters for 3x optical zoom. It also has a wide f2.57 aperture and makes use of optical image stabilization. The 23mm main camera is now a larger 1 in 1.3 inch sized 50 megapixel OmniVision OV50H VCS true color sensor with a very wide aperture of f1.68 and offers laser autofocus as well as SEPA 4.5 level OIS. And lastly, the ultra-wide camera has also been upgraded. It's a 1 in 2.76 inch sized 50 megapixel ISOCELL JN1 sensor with an aperture of f2.0 and a 15mm focal length for a 119 degree field of view. And all three of these sensors offer 3 different color profiles thanks to their partnership with Zeiss. There's Vivid, which makes colors pop, Textured, which adds more detail in shadows, and Natural, which is more true to life. Since Natural is the only mode here developed by Zeiss and offers a fantastic natural balance, that's what we'll be sticking to for the rest of these photos. Snapshot mode has followed suit from Vivo's X series devices and offers zero shutter lag photos when using the main or periscope. Portrait mode looks better than any other foldable around when using the main or periscope, but for some reason the periscope crops in at 3.7x zoom and there is no option for the standard 3x range. Super macro mode is best used with the periscope sensor thanks to its 15cm minimum focusing distance, but the ultra-wide cam still offers the greatest detail. The ultra-wide camera takes superb photos whether using high-res mode or when binning things down, though bin shots look slightly more dull. The same can be said when using the main, but detail is booming regardless of the mode. The periscope looks fantastic when zooming in optically by 3x, but it's hard not to favor the high-resolution mode. I was shocked when seeing the 5x and 10x zoom shot results. It's safe to say that they are on par with some of the best camera smartphones around. 30x continues to retain most of the detail, and while 50x and 100x zoom ranges tend to soften edges, they still come out looking a lot better than any other camera-centric smartphone. Just like with Vivo's flagship X100 series smartphones, the X Fold 3 Pro also offers continuous 4K 60fps video, allowing you to switch from the ultra-wide to the main to the periscope, all the way up to 10x digital zoom in a single video. However, slow motion has taken a bit of a back seat as it caps out at 240 fps when setting the resolution to 1080p, and it only works when using the main camera. Ultra stabilization is also limited to the main camera and caps out at 1080p 60 fps, unlike the X100 Ultra, which allowed for 2.8K 60 fps across all of its sensors. But it's not really needed since all 3 sensors come out very stable when shooting 4K video, which all of them can do at a silky smooth 60 frames per second. 8K video is still limited to the main cam, but it looks incredible. And just like with the X100 Ultra, we are treated to 4K portrait video when using the main and periscope sensors. Those large sensors keep things nice and lit up when recording at night, and while the main camera is the brightest, it tends to wash out my skin tone. When recording regular 4K video at night, the main camera certainly comes out looking the best thanks to fantastic exposure, loads of detail, and impeccable stability. Unfortunately, the ultra-wide and periscope struggle to keep things in focus when recording at night. But all three sensors take phenomenal photos in a dimly lit situation, with the periscope taking the lead in terms of light noise handling, which is evident at a 10x zoom range. And it's crazy how much detail is still retained when zooming in all the way up to 100x zoom. I was blown away by how well the X Fold 3 Pro took photos of a human subject at night that I found myself forgetting that I was actually using a foldable. And the same can be said when switching over to portrait mode, though the periscope camera didn't produce as good a shots as it did when in night mode. In my opinion, the Vivo X Fold 3 Pro produced the best photos and videos I have ever seen come out of a foldable device, and it blew my mind when I realized that I could utilize these back cameras as selfie cameras. But before we get into the comparison, it's worth mentioning that both the outer and inner displays have punch hole cutouts housing the exact same 21mm 32MP selfie camera with an aperture of f2.4. So we'll be sticking to the outer display selfie camera when taking snaps. To use the back cameras as selfie cameras, all you have to do is tap on the top left icon in the camera app when in selfie mode and then unfold the device. You can use the outer display as a preview screen and also use it to control the camera app, switch between lenses, and take photos and videos. You can use the ultra wide to take group shots or the main to get a much more detailed selfie with fantastic natural depth. And while the selfie camera takes decent portrait photos, the rear main camera is clearly a step ahead.
What's up guys, this is TechNick recording a 1080p 30fps selfie video on the brand new Vivo X Fold 3 Pro. Unfortunately, selfie video is capped at 1080p and 30 frames per second, but it's not really needed since you can use the back cams for the selfie anyway. Let me know your thoughts either way on the video and microphone quality in the comment section down below.
It's a bit of a letdown that the selfie camera can only record 1080p 30fps video, but it's not really an issue when you can utilize the back ultra wide and main cameras at 4K 60fps. The selfie cam also limits portrait video to 1080p resolution, but thankfully we can use the main camera to shoot 4K cinematic video. And this makes a huge difference when vlogging at night as it eliminates the noise grain we see produced from the selfie camera. The ultra wide camera might not look quite as good as the main camera when recording video at night, but it still comes out ahead of the selfie camera's video performance. And you will no doubt notice the greatest benefits when taking photos at night, with the ultra wide and main cameras producing class-leading selfie photos, which is the same case when comparing the main and selfie cameras in portrait mode. You never really realize how bad selfie cameras are until you have the ability to be able to use back cameras as selfie cameras, and while I am slightly disappointed with the selfie camera performance here, Vivo more than makes up for it by allowing you to use those back cameras for selfies. The X Fold 3 Pro comes in just two different colors, that being solar white and celestial black, though only the black version is offered in certain regions. I have the celestial black variant and it looks rather stealthy aside from the subtle gold ring which sits above a marbled-like glass ring which wraps around the camera module and sits on top of its backplate. The backplate has an armor back cover made from ultra-thin glass fiber and military-grade UPE fiber. This soft-feeling material runs into an aluminum side piece which includes some branded text and flows into the aluminum side frame. The hinge is made from carbon fiber, which helps keep the device durable yet lightweight. It comes in at just 236 grams and is a mere 11.2mm when folded and 5.2mm when unfolded. The hinge can withstand 500,000 folds, meaning it can undergo 100 fold-unfolds a day for 12 years, which is just ridiculous. Speaking of folding, it can firmly sit at any angle between 60 and 120 degrees, and when completely unfolded, there is a crease, naturally. But it's a lot less noticeable when compared to other foldables around. Once you fold the device back up, you can be rest assured to know that there is absolutely no gap. The cherry on top is that the device has an IPX8 water-resistant certification, meaning it can be submerged 1.5 meters underwater for 30 minutes. Just don't let it fall into a sandpit. The cover screen is protected by armor glass, which is made from microcrystal glass, and the inner display is protected by super tensile ultra-thin glass and impact-resistant film. Unlike most foldable side-mounted fingerprint scanners, the X Fold 3 Pro boasts an in-display ultrasonic sensor under the right side of the inner screen and another ultrasonic sensor under the cover screen, which is not only in line with more standard bar-style smartphones, but faster too since it's ultrasonic instead of optical, foldable, requiring just a touch to get into the action. The displays are some of the best in the game, that being a 6.53-inch Q9 Plus AMOLED cover screen with 457 pixels per inch, a whopping 4500 nits of peak brightness, and a 21:9 aspect ratio, as well as an 8.03-inch E7 AMOLED inner display with 412 ppi, the same bright 4500 nits of brightness, and an aspect ratio of 4:3.5. Both of them can display over 1 billion colors. They both support Dolby Vision, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Widevine L1 content, and they both make use of LTPO8T technology for a 1:120Hz screen refresh rate. Before we dive into software, it's worth mentioning two unique features. First is that the X Fold 3 Pro features a mute switch on the left side when unfolded and the right side when folded, which is more traditional with just two sound profile options. And secondly, the device has a horizontal desk calendar always on display feature, which activates when in tent mode and makes for a useful night clock. Since this is the first globally released foldable from Vivo, it's their first foldable running their global Funtouch OS 14 software, which is skinned over Android 14. Funtouch OS has felt rather outdated when using Vivo's recent bar-style flagship smartphones, but thankfully they have spiced things up a bit with their new foldable. Other than the standard Google integration, there are now finally large folders which have been on my Funtouch OS wishlist for quite some time now. That said, most of the new features are designed with a foldable device in mind. The most noteworthy feature is the taskbar, which displays at the bottom of the screen when you're in an app, and it can be hidden if need be. When displayed, you'll see the recent apps alongside your docked apps, the same way you would see it on the home screen. But to take things even further, there is also an app list icon to gain quick access to all of your apps. Once you find the app you're looking for, you can simply drag and drop it into split screen and even bring in another app as a floating window and then pin it to the side. You can switch split screen apps to different orientations and even save the app combo on your home screen for use later on. When watching a video in full screen, you can fold the device into tent mode and watch videos on the outer screen while the device holds itself up. Additionally, you can use flex mode to have the video display in the top half while displaying a control panel in the bottom half of the screen, which provides quick actions such as adjusting the brightness and volume. Flex mode is most useful when in a productivity app, as it allows you to use the bottom half as a mouse cursor and even a scroll bar, much like a laptop trackpad. Additionally, you can use the bottom half of the screen for the touch keyboard, which gives you even more of that laptop-like feel. The X Fold 3 Pro packs in a massive 5700 mAh dual cell battery thanks to silicon carbon technology, and it can fully charge up in just 31 minutes thanks to 100 watt wired charging, and 50 watt wireless charging will get you up to 50% in just 35 minutes. The device also makes use of an innovative cooling system which should help keep all components at bay, including 512 gigs of UFS 4.0 storage, 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM, and of course the 4nm run Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 CPU, making it the first foldable device to run Qualcomm's flagship chipset, which means it had no issues receiving and maintaining some seriously impressive benchmark scores across multiple different benchmark apps. But more importantly, it games like an absolute champion. We were able to get a rock-solid 120 FPS in Real Racing 3 without any FPS drops or stutters, as well as a stable 120 FPS when playing Call of Duty Mobile when set to ultra framerate mode, and the device never felt too hot. Lastly, we played Genshin Impact, which has a frame cap of 60 FPS, and even with all the graphical settings maxed out, we managed an average 60 FPS the entire time playing. It's also worth mentioning that you can fold the device and use the cover screen without having to worry about the frame rate being affected. Unfortunately, some games require the game to be restarted when you switch between displays, but the FPS is never affected. Vivo's latest foldable also packs in Bluetooth 5.4, NFC, dual SIM 5G and Wi-Fi 7, as well as a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, an IR blaster, an X-axis linear vibration motor, and of course dual stereo speakers with super audio effect support. So let's go ahead and give them a listen. I'm glad that Vivo waited for their third generation foldable before releasing it in the global market. because it gave them time to not only perfect their foldable, but to perfect foldable smartphones in general. It is the most powerful foldable on the planet, has the largest battery in a foldable, the fastest charging, the brightest displays which offer superb color accuracy, and are utilized well with the carbon fiber hinge and unparalleled foldable software. And to top it all off, its cameras produce the best photos I have ever seen come from a foldable device. It might be expensive, but if you're in the market for a foldable, then surely you have the money to spend. Let me know your thoughts on what is arguably the best foldable device that 2024 has to offer. This is TechNick, and I'll catch you in the next one.